Good morning. Today we are going to start lecture 10, chapter 5, lifestyles around the world. So, from the title of the chapter, you can see that all over the world, people have different ways of living and different cultures. And in this chapter, we will look at some of these cultures and ways or lessons that we can learn from experiences we live in different parts of the world. Before we start our chapter, I will give you the my contact hours, so that you can call me and ask for any difficulties in the course or any points you want me to explain. So the office hours are Saturday 10:30 to 12 o'clock, Monday 10:30 to 12 o'clock, Wednesday 10:30 to 12 o'clock, and then the mobile number is 053751 22240, 053751 22240. So you can contact me in order to ask for any question concerning the course or the exam. We will start with the first slide, in which we will look at exploring ideas in chapter 5. So in this chapter you are going to write a 2-paragraph narrative about a personal experience. You should tell the reader about the moral of the story. Here I will stop at 3 points. I will explain the word narrative. Narrative means a story and a list of events you can tell with following a chronological order. What happened first, what happened second, and what happened last. Okay. The second point is a personal experience. In fact, in this chapter you are going to write about an experience that happened to you, from which you learned a lesson. So a personal experience, something that happened to you personally, like for example going on a picnic in the forest and having some difficulties there, like your car is broken or someone of the people with you fell sick. The third point is moral. So here your story should tell a moral. Okay, moral here means a lesson, a particular lesson that you learned from an event, a story, or an experience. So here, in a narrative, in a personal experience narrative, you should, at the end of the story, tell the moral of the story. Okay, for this we are going to move to exercise. We will start with exercise 1, page 86, in which we will discuss some lessons learned from experiences. So open your books on page 86, exercise 1, discussing lessons learned from experience. In fact, our personal experience can let us or allow us to learn many lessons. Example of lessons or morals of stories are the following. Number 1, it's important to think for yourself. Here we mean that people shouldn't always follow the decisions of others. They should make up their minds and decide for themselves sometimes in order to avoid a difficulty or to overcome a danger. Number 2, self-discipline is an essential quality. We spoke about qualities in the last lecture, and we said that discipline is a quality that you should have if you want to apply for a job or a college position. Here we are going to speak about self-discipline, which means controlling, the power of controlling your desires and feelings. Some lessons that some stories that may happen to you may teach you the lesson that you should have the power to control your desires and feelings before a reaction to an event. Number 3, sometimes you have to take risks to get something you want. Facing danger is something, courage and facing danger is something that you should rely on sometimes in order to get what you want. Okay, so this is a lesson that you may write at the end of a story that happened to you. Number 4, friendship is one of the most valuable things in life. All of you know that friends are important in our lives since they may help us when we need them. And the proverb says, a friend in need is a friend indeed. So here you may have a story that happened to you and a friend helped you to overcome the difficulties in that story, and then you will learn that friendship is a valuable thing in our lives. Number 5, you should never make promises you can't keep. Promises are telling people that you will give something or you will do something or not to do something. So here one lesson can teach you the moral that you shouldn't say to people that you will do something which you cannot afford, or you will give something and then you don't fulfill your promise. Number 6, if you want a good relationship, you have to compromise. Compromise here means that you attain an agreement, you reach an agreement which satisfies both sides. So here, if you want a good relationship with a friend or with your boss or anyone you have a relationship with, you should reach a compromise with him. You should agree on things that are satisfactory to both of you. Number 7, sometimes parents do know best. Some lessons may tell us or teach us that if we listen to the advice of our parents, we will be better, or we will win, or we will solve a problem. Okay, so here it's a good thing to hear the advice or to follow the advice of our parents. Number 8, you should never lie to the people you love. And here it says that it means that telling the truth is always a good thing. It's a quality, and you should tell the truth in order not to harm your beloved or not to make your beloved feel sad or unhappy or unsatisfied with you. Number 9, the only thing that's certain is change. Here, by change, we mean that people can learn from a lesson that they shouldn't behave that way or they shouldn't think that way. So change in our lives is certain. It's sure that some lessons will teach us to change our behavior or to change our way of thinking. Number 10, it's great to be independent, and here it means that some lessons can teach us to rely on ourselves, which is a good thing, to rely on ourselves and do to rely on ourselves and have control on ourselves, and not to allow people to do everything for us. So it's great to be independent. Those are some lessons from which you can start, and you can write a story that happened to you, and the moral of which is one of those lessons. We will move to the next slide. In fact, in the next slide, we will start building vocabulary. We will look at some nouns, verbs, or adjectives that we can use when we write our experience or our story, our personal narrative. It's exercise 4, page 87. We have a list of nouns. We will start with the nouns first. The word decision. Decision means deciding or making up your mind. Friendship is the relationship between friends, relationship or feelings between friends. Importance is that something very important or of a large significance for us. Promise Promise means to write or a written or a spoken declaration that you will give or do or not to do something. So a promise is something that we say to people that a promise is to say to people that we will give or we will do or not to do something. Self-discipline. Self-discipline is the power of controlling our desires and feelings in order to achieve improvement or in order to improve ourselves. So this is a list of nouns that you may use when you write your story. The verbs now are change. Change means to cause or to become different. Compromise means to reach an agreement which satisfies both sides, especially in a dispute or when you have a disagreement with someone, you can reach a compromise with him. Lie means not to tell the truth. If you lie at someone, means that you don't tell him the truth. Risk means to face danger or difficulties. Risk, to face danger or difficulties. The adjectives now. We have independent. Independent means someone who relies on himself, someone who controls himself. Valuable is something of great importance or something which has a precious value to us. Decisive means something that has an important effect on us. Decisive. Important or conclusive effect. Okay, so those are some of the vocabulary words that you may use when you start writing about your personal story. In the next slide, we will look at using a graphic organizer to write an anecdote. As we saw in the previous chapters, we can use graphic organizers in order to organize our ideas. Remember when we used a graphic organizer about finding the relevant and irrelevant sentences in a topic sentence about the room, my room, and also we wrote or we used a graphic organizer to write reasons reasons which support the fact that motorists should return the money. Okay, so those are graphic organizers. You will have an idea or a concept in the center, and you will develop the information or the details that support it. We will start with defining an anecdote. An anecdote is a short description of an interesting event that really happened. So here, anecdote is a story which has many details or which lists many events, and the events come in a chronological order. So this anecdote should tell a lesson or a moral of the story to the reader. At the end of the anecdote, you should have a moral of the story or a lesson that we learned from it. So, your anecdote should answer the following questions. If you are going to write your anecdote, you have to answer some questions first. Those questions will be answered in your graphic organizer. The first question is when and where did the event happen? So here, this is our first question: when and where did the event happen? So here we will answer the question about time and place. Time and place. You should state clearly the time of the story and the place where it happened. Okay? Next, we will look at who was involved in the story. Means the people who took part in the story. Are they your friends? Are they members of your family or some of your colleagues? Okay. Next, we will speak about what happened, the event itself. What happened exactly? We should tell the reader about the event itself. What was it? Was it an adventure? Was it, for example, a picnic from which you learned a lesson? Okay. So next we have number 4. We have why. The question is, why did it happen? Why did it happen? We will mention the reason of this event. The reason of the event, and we should state the cause of it, why it happened to us. Number 5, what was the result? What was the result? Here we will speak about the resolution, okay? The result, we can write the resolution, or the things that we decided to do or not to do, okay? In that question, okay? What was the result also can be speaking about the solution to the difficulty that we faced. Number 6, what was the lesson you learned? This is the last question. What was the lesson you learned? And here we will speak about the moral of the story. The moral of the story. What did we learn from the story? As an example, you can write about a story that happened to you, a picnic that you had in the forest, and for example, one of the children who were with you fell sick, and you know what was the medicine that he should take in order to recover. And then you don't have any doctors around you, or you don't have any medicines with you. So you can learn, you can tell what was the lesson that you learned from this story. Lessons like, for example, you should always be equipped with things that you need, okay? Or you should always depend on yourself for preparing your, for example, luggage when you go on a picnic. So lessons like this can be learned from stories which happen to us in different phases of our lives. Now we will move to the graphic organizer. We can say that a graphic organizer can help you organize your ideas for your writing. So here in the graphic organizer, you may organize your ideas you can divide them into 3 parts. For example, you can start with the beginning, and then the middle, and then the end. You will you will write in your graphic organizer what will you write at the beginning, what you will write in the middle, and what you will write at the end, okay? We will look at an example of a graphic organizer. See your books on page 89. So we move to the book. It's on page 89, and here we have a graphic organizer in front of you. In this graphic organizer, we can see that it is divided into 3 parts. Part 1, Part 2, and Part 3. Part 3. In the first part, you will speak about the beginning. In the beginning, you can tell about who are the people involved in this story. Next, so here we can speak about people. What? We can speak about the event. What is the event exactly? When? We can speak about the time. We have to write the time when the story happened to us. Where? We speak about the place. Where? We speak about why. We speak about the reason. So all of these should be at the beginning of your story, okay? Then in the middle of the story, we should classify the events. We have here event 1, event 2, and event 3. What are the 3 events that happened in our story? We may have more than 3 events, 4 or 5 events. And then at the end of your story, you should write the resolution or your decision about what to do or what not to do. Okay, you decided to do. What did you decide to do, or what did you decide not to do? And then in the last stage, at the end, you can write the lesson or the moral of the story. What did you learn from that story? Okay. After showing you this graphic organizer, we will move to the next slide, in which we will have a story, an anecdote which happened to a person, and he is going to tell us about what is the lesson that he learned from that story. Okay, then we will read this story or this anecdote, and then complete or fill in the graphic organizer that we saw before. Okay, so open your books on page 89, exercise 6. One summer weekend, some friends and I decided to walk to a waterfall we had heard about. So here, from the start, he mentioned the time. The time was one summer event, one summer weekend, and this is when. When did the story happen? Okay. One summer weekend, some friends and I. So here he answered the question who. He answered the question who. Said that some friends and I decided to walk to a waterfall we had heard about. So here he said decided to walk to a waterfall we have heard about. All of this is the event that happened. They decided to walk to a waterfall they had heard about. Since it was too far to walk along the road, we followed a railroad line. We had walked 5 or 6 miles when we came to a high rock wall where the tracks entered a tunnel. Here he answered the question of the place. The place in which the event happened, it was a tunnel. He answered the question where. Okay. So he says, we had walked 5 or 6 miles when we came to a high rock wall where the tracks entered a tunnel. This tunnel didn't look very long, but it was very narrow. We knew it would be dangerous if a train came because there would be no safe place for us to go. So here he is narrating what happened exactly. He is narrating the events. I think that here he spoke about the first event. They walked along the road and they followed a railroad line. This is event 1. Event 1, okay? We had walked 5 or 6 miles when we came to a high rock wall where the tracks entered a tunnel. This tunnel didn't look very long, but it was very narrow. We knew it would be dangerous. It would be dangerous if a train came because there would be no safe place for us to go. However, we couldn't climb the rocks or walk around them, and no one wanted to go back. Finally, we decided to go through the tunnel. I knew it was foolish, but I went because the others did. So what is the second event here? The second event here is we came to a high rock wall where tracks entered a tunnel. This is event 2. Event 2 is that they came to a high rock, like a mountain, where where there is a tunnel. They cannot climb that high rock, or they cannot go around it and follow another road. So here, this is event 2. Event 3 is this one. We decided to go through the tunnel. This is the third event. We decided to go through the tunnel. It's event 3. So all of this information came at the beginning in the first paragraph, okay? Because here we have 2 paragraphs. In the second paragraph, we will have the resolution and the lesson, okay? Here there is another question which we didn't answer. The question is why? Why, okay? The question is why, and I think that the answer is we had heard about. We had heard about answers the question why, okay? So here I think that we answered all the questions about the beginning of the anecdote and the middle, the beginning of the graphic organizer and the middle of it. Let's continue. As we entered the tunnel, we saw that it was longer and darker than we had thought. So here they discovered that the tunnel is longer, okay, very long, and it was darker, okay. They thought that they will walk for just a short distance, but they found that it was longer and darker. Suddenly everyone was frightened and we all began to run. Here we have the resolution. The resolution is that we all began to run. It's the resolution. What we mean by the resolution is something that they decided to do or not to do. The solution to the problem they faced. In fact, they found themselves in a narrow tunnel which was dark and very long, okay? And at any time the train may come or may cross that tunnel, okay? So they decided to run. They began to run. This is crazy, I thought. As we ran faster, it got lighter in the tunnel. Once we were outside, we fell on the ground gasping. About a minute later, a train came through. That was when I finally realized the importance of thinking for myself. And here in the last sentence, he gives us the moral of the story, or the lesson that he learned, okay? He says, finally, I realized the importance of thinking of myself. This is the lesson that he learned. In fact, he learned from this story, he learned that he should make decisions by himself. He should make up his mind. He should decide for himself and not to follow the others. If people do something, it doesn't mean that they are right. We should always think about what we do, and we should always make up our minds, even if we don't have the same ideas as others. So this is our anecdote or our story, okay? And in fact, because the information was organized in a graphic organizer, the writer could write his story in a well-organized way, and he could tell us what was the moral of the lecture. So what was the moral of the story. So let's now recapitulate the story that happened and try to fill in this graphic organizer. Who? He said that he's speaking about my friends and I. The people are my friends and I. What happened? it was going to or walking to a waterfall. Walking to a waterfall. When it says one summer weekend, one summer weekend, one summer weekend, and then for a question where the story happened in a tunnel, okay, in a narrow tunnel in the railroad way, in a railroad way, tunnel in a railroad way. And then he, for the question why did this story happen? Because they heard about the channel, or they heard about the waterfall. They heard about the waterfall, and they were curious and interested to visit that waterfall. Event one, we said that the first event is to walk along the road. So, walk along the road, and here following a railroad line, following a railroad line. Event number two is we couldn't, or we came to a high rock wall where the trucks entered. So here we came to a high rock where trucks. So we came to a high rock wall where the trucks entered a tunnel. Where trucks entered a tunnel. Event number three, we started, or event number three, we went through the tunnel. Yes, we went through the tunnel. This is event number three. And now we move to the end of the story, in which we have the resolution. The resolution is that they started running. Okay, we all began to run. We all began to run. This is the resolution. The lesson now that he learned, he realized the importance of thinking for himself. I realized the importance of thinking for myself. This is a lesson. This is the moral of the story. The lesson that he learned is that whenever he is with his friends or with others, and he has the opportunity to think or decide for himself, he should do that. So here the writer learned the lesson that he should make up his mind and decide for himself. Okay, so this is our anecdote, our story Now we will move to the next slide, in which I'll give you a homework. Your homework is to write your own anecdote in which you tell the reader about a personal experience which taught you a valuable lesson. Remember that when you use sensory details in your anecdote or in your story, you will have a better opportunity to convince the reader about your story. Okay, so here try to prepare a graphic organizer first, in which you write the place, the time, the people, and the reason why the story happened, and then you classify your events into 3 or 4 events, and at the end you write the resolution or the solution or the decision that you took, and finally you will write the moral of the lesson, or the moral of the story, or the lesson you learned from that story. Okay, I hope you good luck for this, and I wait for your lessons or stories next time. Thank you very much. See you next time.